Do you think crushed that spirit?
I think by the late 80s it was collapsing. In fact, the last time I was there...
Corruption or a little
partly just the attacks.
The contrast.
Internal corruption. It was a kind of combination. I think there's a lot wrong with the Sandinistas, plenty. Even when at the best period you could see it. But they might have worked their way out of it if they hadn't been under attack. But by the late 80s, I thought it was gone. In fact, the last time I was there, I was there right before the election.
This election? Or?
No, the 1989 election.
Okay.
The Chamorro election. And I was, interviews and talks and meeting people around the country. And it was kind of interesting. The Sandinista leadership didn't like what I was saying. They were assumed they were going to win the election easily. And my feeling was they were going to lose. Not that I had any profound knowledge, but you see that people were disillusioned and beaten down, and the spirit was gone. And I said that occasionally. I said, it's not going to be so easy. They called me in to the leadership to straighten me out, Thomas Borge and others. And then at one point, Miguel Descoto, who was then foreign minister, I think, and who I knew, he invited me to come to his house. He had a elegant villa up in the hills. And Managua itself was like a hellhole, but up in the hills was pretty nice. So all the rich people live up in the hills. It must have been an old Somoza palace or something. A lovely place, fancy paintings on the walls. We went and sat under the veranda, nice and cool, and had a drink. And he was explaining to me that I just didn't understand. All you had to do was look at his house, and you could see whether they're not going to win the election. Because other people can look at it too. But he didn't perceive it. And he told me, we're easily going to win. So I asked him, I said, well, just suppose that you don't win the election. What will you do yourself? So he said, oh, no problem. I'm a simple parish priest. I'll go back to my humble little hut somewhere. I'm sure he's still living in the same palace. So there's a lot of internal corruption.
Yeah.
And that piñata was just, I don't know how they survived it. I would have thought people would want to strangle them after that. My son-in-law is Nicaraguan, and my daughter's husband. He comes from a family, 11 children, grew up in poverty and stuff. One of his sisters, I guess it is, has a little house somewhere, and we go visit when we're there. She's right across the street from a big area surrounded by a high wall, which it turns out is the estate of Humberto Ortega. He lives in Costa Rica. He didn't even live there. He's a rich businessman. But he has this huge area, fenced walls. You can't see what's inside. Imagine it's a major estate. People who live in Nicaragua can see that.
Yeah.
The Sandinista leadership didn't seem to understand it.
And that is also the dangers of all these revolutions happen if nothing actually changes. Then, like if the economic situation in Tunisia doesn't get better, or in Egypt, then
no, there's still people fleeing Tunisia. In fact, the source of the revolution in Tunisia is actually structural adjustment.
Yeah.
It started in the 80s.
The neoliberal,
the World Bank and IMF.
Supposed to be economically a good country, but the inequality is.
For very rich, it's okay. Like Egypt, plenty of wealth in Egypt. I've been there. It's a miserable poverty. Yeah. That's neoliberalism right here.
Like democracy is good. And I'm glad there or something. Who knows?
It's better to get rid of the gangsters, but the regime hasn't changed,
and the economic situation might not change.
I was the same in South Africa. Getting rid of apartheid was a major achievement, but for most of the population, things are probably worse.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.